This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Rwanda and the UK signed a controversial deal on April the 15th to relocate certain asylum seekers from Britain to Rwanda. This comes as the UK stated numbers of illegal immigrants arriving by small boats having risen from around 8,500 in 2020 to over 28,000 in 2021. However, the deal has raised questions from not only human rights organizations like Amnesty International and the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, but also British opposition politicians who term it unworkable and inhumane. The announcement of the deal has raised several questions. Why has it been struck? How will it be implemented? And does this deal violate basic refugee rights as outlined in the Geneva Convention? I'm Beatrice Marshall. Welcome to Talk Africa. The refugee deal has been received with mixed reaction from different organizations and individuals. We sat down with Alain Mukurarinda, the Rwandan government deputy spokesperson, to better understand why the deal has been put in place.
Rwanda's responsibility is clear. Rwanda wants to solve the migrant crisis, which sees migrants putting their lives at risk, and this problem has been going on for a long time. There are human traffickers who profit from this. There are people who become slaves. There are people who died while crossing the desert. There are those who die by drowning. And everyone, I mean everyone, looks on and does nothing. On our end, Rwanda has for a long time welcomed refugees. Rwandese themselves are refugees, and some have come back and resettled. We have welcomed refugees from Libya, Afghanistan, so we have the experience. Also, for the past 20 years, Rwanda has been a secure country. And I believe, we are convinced that migrants will receive the minimum quality of life here that they are searching for elsewhere. So if there is a way to discourage them from going, I don't think Rwanda will miss this opportunity.
Leur empêcher de continuer à y aller, je ne pense pas que le Rwanda aurait pu rater cette occasion.
The UK has the responsibility to ensure 100% of the budget for this program. This will allow for us to construct certain infrastructure in Rwanda. Hospitals will be constructed, schools will be constructed. There will be many things that will be done. This will help to balance the inequality between the global south and the global north. It is also our form of cooperation, even if some say we are profiting from the suffering of others. But I don't think this is true. It's another form of cooperation, and a type of cooperation which is looking to solve a deeper issue.
Un problème plus profond. Ceux qui le voudront vraiment.
Those who really want to can work here and integrate themselves. Those who wish not to stay will be helped to return to their countries of origin. Those who are placed here can one day attempt to return in a legal manner. So they will be treated better here than if they are placed in camps or prisons waiting for the conclusion of their cases. Secondly, if we can prevent people from leaving their countries because they will think that, okay, if I go to the UK, I will be sent back to Rwanda, I would rather stay in my country and try to find work, there also we would have solved a problem. So whether it's historical, political or financial, we don't care. The most important thing is that we solve this problem and save lives. Besides that, it's as I said earlier, give a chance for this agreement to be put in place, and let's deal with the diplomatic or political issues afterwards. But I don't think it's right to critique the agreement or to block it while we have yet to put it in place and there is no alternative solution being proposed.
De critiquer ou de faire en sorte que l'accord ne soit pas mis en application.
Well, joining me now to discuss the asylum deal are from Kampala, Acheng Akena, Executive Director, International Refugee Rights Initiative. From Vermont, Louis Mudge, the Central Africa Director at Human Rights Watch. And from Kigali in Rwanda, Gatete Nyiringabo Ruhumuliza, a human rights lawyer and independent political analyst. Welcome everyone to the program and thank you for joining in this discussion. Acheng, if I may start off with you, the UK has proposed a new scheme where people claiming asylum in the UK are to be relocated to Rwanda where their cases will be processed. First off, how do you view this deal?
I would say that it is a worrying trend that we've been seeing quite a bit on the continent, this externalization of asylum processes. We've seen it happen with the US sending Afghans to Uganda. We've seen it, we've heard of it rather, happening when Denmark tried to have the same deal with Rwanda, and the African Union lambasted this process as being xenophobic and completely unacceptable. I think, personally, I think it goes against the ideals of Pan-Africanism and what we're trying to accomplish as a people-centered continent. It is quite worrying that these countries in the global north are transferring their responsibilities to us as a continent, instead of sharing, as they say in lofty human rights and international documents, instead of burden sharing as a continent or as a global continent.
You do say, though, Achieng, you're talking about this going against the ideals of Pan-Africanism. I mean, it is the UK that is sending, you know, the asylum seekers to Rwanda. How is this going against the ideals of Pan-Africanism?
The position, the fact that Rwanda is accepting this, Pan-Africanism is about putting people first. It is about having a people-centered continent and not one led by governments. And this was a secret deal that was made between governments without consultation of the people, without consideration, and without putting people first. So how does that is completely contrary to the ideals that we have as Pan-Africanists.
Gatete, what's your view here?
I'm surprised that welcoming human beings to Africa can be qualified as going against the values of Pan-Africanism. I do not understand why, if people are seeking asylum in a country and the country doesn't want them, if we open our borders and welcome these people to our country, Africans first, because we started by welcoming people from the war zone in Libya, refugees, and now we're welcoming Africans and other peoples of the world. What we're doing is called welcoming human beings. Welcoming human beings is at the core, underpins the values of Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism means Pan is all Africans together. If we're bringing Africans to Africa, I think that's actually what Pan-Africanism is all about. But without dwelling on the Pan-Africanism argument, which I find quite far-fetched, we did not refuse people from receiving asylum in the UK. They're free to do that. We're just saying that our doors are open. Everybody should have their right dignity. Everybody should have access to a country that welcomes them and treats them as equal human beings. And that's what we're offering. We're offering a platform, we're offering a safe haven for anyone who's having problems being processed or being welcomed in any corners of the planet. We're offering them a safe haven for them to come and live and thrive like any Rwandan. We don't have a culture of deporting asylum seekers in this country. We actually have more a culture of welcoming people.
That is the view here, and that is what we want to get to the bottom of. Exactly why did Rwanda accept this proposal from the United Kingdom? What is the rationale behind this development? Because according to this proposal, if they are granted asylum, they will also be encouraged to remain in Rwanda for at least 5 years.
Right. So first of all, it's who we are. The polity in Rwanda is made of people who have all experienced asylum, exile. I was born in exile. All the Rwandan leaders have at some point in time been in exile. So we are very sensitive to people who are asylum seekers, refugees, and so on. It comes from our history, of our bitter history. We want more people rather than less. And we do not discriminate human beings. Now, whether they wanted to go to the United Kingdom, they can still go. In fact, we're not stopping people from going wherever they want. I mean, migration is the norm it's an activity that mankind practices since time immemorial.
All right.
That will not stop. We're only offering a space for them to come and thrive and be considered as equal human beings, not second-class citizens, not unwanted. We do not even believe in the concept of illegal migrants.
Louis, what's your take? Let me rope you in here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is this should be seen for exactly what it is, which is a deeply cynical move on the part of the United Kingdom to absolutely move away from its responsibilities of providing asylum to people who seek it. They are literally shipping these people off to a willing country in Rwanda. This is, it absolutely should be seen for what it is on face value. This is not some deal that's going to benefit these people who want to go to the UK. This is all it is moving away from the responsibilities. Now, in terms of Rwanda, I mean, I would push back on Gitete for a moment. It was only last week that the Rwandan foreign minister said, we actually don't want Congolese and Burundian refugees. So I'm not sure Rwanda is the safe haven that he's purporting it to be. The fact is that they will take these ones from the UK and there is money involved. They don't want refugees from neighboring countries. And let's also face the facts. Rwanda is a country with a troubling human rights record with regards to its own refugees. And you don't have to take our word for it. The United Kingdom themselves, in a report just last year, really took Rwanda to task for at certain points an abysmal human rights record.
Right.
And now, just a few months later, they're saying it's a safe place to be.
And that is the question, though, Lewis, because the US and the UK had raised concerns, probably last month and even last year about Rwanda's human rights record. But then again, they've turned around and have made a proposal to send refugees. So what has changed exactly?
I think what's changed is right now it's advantageous for the UK to turn a blind eye to Rwanda's human rights record because they want to get rid of these refugees and asylum seekers for political purposes. Right. That's what's changed. And that's the cynicism of this deal.
Gatete, yes, go ahead, Gatete.
First of all, I will not speak to the state of mind of the United Kingdom. From a Rwandan perspective, we are excited to receive human beings because, like I told you, we lost 1 million people. We want more people from wherever they are. If they can come and become part of us, it's something that's what we believe. That is even the name of our country. It's called UKRwanda. It means the expansive. It means the welcoming. That's the actual name of the country. Now, he's talking about a few things. He says Rwanda will benefit money. Now, to tell you the truth, it was 140 million pounds, I believe, that is part of the deal as of now. Now, that is money that is used for the relocation of these refugees. We have received refugees from Libya, many more refugees from Libya. We did not receive any single penny, or we did not ask any country to help us receive and relocate these people. So migrants, as far as we are concerned, and that's the attitude that we have here, having been migrants ourselves, migrants to us are not a problem. It's not a problem of our capacity to absorb them. It's actually a problem of our capacity to tap into their strength, into their skills. These are people who crossed rivers and deserts and war zones. These are people who are strong and have a strong will to live. So we will benefit from them. In fact, we should be giving money to the UK for sending us new human beings.
All right. Achille, let me bring you in here because religious, international and human rights organizations are questioning the legality of this process. They're actually terming it a cruel, inhumane and neo-colonial plan and questioning both its cost to the British taxpayer and why, and the effect on migration. What effect is this likely to have on migration?
If this was really being done out of the goodness of of Rwandans' hearts and the welcoming, why was it done in secrecy? Why weren't we informed? Why wasn't there public participation in the making of this decision if there really wasn't anything to hide? And it makes me ask the question, what was on the table? Because I don't believe that it was only money. We saw, for example, when the US brought its Afghan asylees to Uganda, the US prior to that had been very vocal about Uganda closing down its civil society. We haven't had anything from the UK about the attack on civil society since then. So the question is, what is on the table? It's not just money. Mm-hmm. If it was just money, then why wasn't it open to a public process? Why weren't people allowed to comment, participate in the making of this decision? In addition to that, what's going to happen with regard to the asylum processes within the country? Are they going to have two different types of processes? Those processes for those who are from the UK and processes from those who just crossed the border? Because we know for a fact that at the moment, only 1% of people have access to relocation to a third country. So does that mean that the asylees from the UK are going to have priority in terms of third country relocation? What does that do to the asylum system that's existing in each of these countries?
Gatete, what will happen in the processes that Acheng is asking about? What happens when, the asylum seekers arrive in Rwanda? International and rights organizations have questioned the legality of the process by the United Kingdom.
This is something that's going to be established in courts of law. I mean, I'm sure rights groups are going to sue the UK government in the United Kingdom, and courts are going to decide. As far as we are concerned, we are on the receiving end. If you send people from the UK, but also from France, from wherever, we welcome human beings. Whether people challenge that in courts, in international law, I don't see, by the way, as I'm a lawyer and I studied international law, I personally don't see anything wrong with this move because I find it legally normal, because these people were not, like some people are saying here, they're not bundled and shipped. We don't have concentration camps. We don't have detention facilities for refugees in Rwanda. Everyone, you asked the question whether they will receive priority over other refugees. No, they won't. In Rwanda, everybody is treated equally. In fact, refugees have the same rights as Rwandans, most of the rights. Maybe they don't have the right to vote and so on because they don't have citizenship, but most of the other rights they have. They will work, they will study. Education is free, basic education, 12-year basic education is free in Rwanda. Universal healthcare is free for everyone. These people will benefit from those things at the same time as Rwandans. What we are saying is, go and deal with the UK, go do your legal battles if you want, it's up to you. But as far as you're concerned, our borders are just open for anyone to come. That's as simple as that.
All right, we're going to take a short break now. Very interesting discussion here. When we come back, we'll take a closer look at how the implementation of this deal is likely to be done. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Talk Africa. Still with me are Acheng Akena, Louis Maj, and Gatete Ruhumuliza. Before the break, we looked at some of the reasons behind the asylum deal. Let's now take a closer look at how this may unfold. Acheng, the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has called, the Rwanda proposal scheme a prototype. And he says the deal will become a new international standard in handling migration. What effects do you see this having? Do you see other countries using this as an alternative to deal with the asylum-seeking situation?
I think Europe has been looking for such alternatives for quite a while now. This is not something new. As I said, we already had about Denmark having a similar deal with Rwanda, I think at least 1 or 2 years ago. And we have had previous rumors with Ghana as well for a couple of years. This was Europe's response to what they considered to be a migration influx into Europe. I think it's important to state that, first of all, not all Africans are dying across the Mediterranean. Actually, the number of Africans who migrate to Europe is minimal if you consider the number of Africans who migrate within the continent and also to Asia. And so when Europe is dealing with it as a panic, the African Union's response to it was to improve legal ways of migrating across Africa and adopt a freedom of movement protocol that would allow all Africans to move across the region, which is still in the process of being adopted. And I think it's the burden that Europe is trying to shirk is not that much of a burden as compared to what other countries have to deal with when in terms of asylum and people seeking refuge.
All right, let me go to you, Gatete, because we've talked about this for a while, and you've mentioned the conditions that the refugees and asylum seekers will find in Rwanda. Rwanda already hosts about 130,000 refugees. 90% of them are in refugee camps and transit centers. So one would ask, does the country have the capacity to continue absorbing refugees given its physical and economic size?
can look at migrants as a problem, as dependents, or you can look at migrants as new, vibrant people who are willing to work, who will help in the development of the country. Many of the most powerful countries in the world are made of migrants. If we look at migrants as a burden, indeed, Rwanda would not be able to absorb many migrants. But if you look at migrants as new labor force, new creative people who are going to bring new energy into our economy, into our country, then migration becomes rather an asset instead of a liability. The other day we welcomed, when Kabul was falling in the hands of the Taliban, we welcomed an all-girls school of Afghani girls and their extended families and their teachers and so on. And these people, I've met them, they're actually part of the Rwandan tapestry now. The fact that you have migrants still in camps is that, so you have migrants in camps and you have migrants in society. Those who are in camps are the ones who, first of all, they haven't been able to find something to do in society, but most of them would like to go back to their country of origin. Usually migrants, when it's forced migration, they want to go back to their country. So, but these migrants that are leaving their country voluntarily to go to the United Kingdom are people who want to live outside of their country. And therefore, when you bring them to Rwanda, if you give them work to do, if you give them opportunities, they will contribute.
All right. Louis, I want to come back to you to find out if this, deal proposal by the United Kingdom, if it will act as a deterrent for refugees trying to enter the UK. What's your thought on that? Do you think this will work?
Well, it didn't work in Australia. Australia tried to do this, enact this type of program, and it didn't work there. It had abysmal consequences in terms of people's human rights just being completely trampled on. It's too early to say. This deal has only been announced a few weeks ago. I mean, the fact is these people are trying to get to the UK. They're not trying to get to any other country. We're hearing anecdotally from people that this isn't going to work, that they're going to continue to try. I think what really, when you think about this deal, here we are in the month of April, and this deal has been announced, and the UK is saying it's to prevent people from coming, and yet they made this deal effective on January 1st. So they are already effectively punishing the people who arrived in the United Kingdom before this deal was even announced.
Right.
So it really is hard to see how this is to have that deterrent effect. Let's be clear, this is being made on the UK side. This is being made for political calculations. This is the Tories trying to produce some type of result. This is them collectively punishing some of the world's most vulnerable people. And the proof is in the pudding, in the sense that they're already punishing the people that arrived even before this deal was announced.
I want to hear your thoughts of if you think this is a viable alternative in regards to resettlement of asylum seekers, because according to the UNHCR, 85% of the world's refugees are already being hosted in developing countries.
I don't think African Union wants Africans to leave and seek asylum overseas. That's not really what the African Union wants. The African Union wants Africans to have a good life in Africa. That's actually the purpose of every institution. A continental institution wants to provide better livelihood for its people. It doesn't want to let them go elsewhere. Also, let's think about this. As migration is also brain drain on the continent. We do not actually wish it. We don't want Africans to migrate, because when Africans migrate, they take with them their skills and their
I'm so sorry, allow me. I don't like to interrupt people, but I will interrupt you, Gatete. If you look at the streets of Nairobi, I'm sure it's the same with Kigali. There are several European young people who come to the continent and they come to learn. They do internships, they do jobs, and they go back to their countries and they take that knowledge. And in a few years, they're coming back as experts on Africa, or they're in space, presenting themselves as experts on Africa. Why can't our young people have the same opportunities? And for me, the problem, it's not that our young people are moving, it's that our governments don't care enough to protect our young people who are moving. So I don't think that migration is the problem. The problem is that we do not have the protections in place that the European young people have when they come to our continent to learn from us and to learn from our experiences.
Gatete, very briefly, because we are going to wrap up in a minute.
Yes, so my point is, we are welcoming our people to Rwanda. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to ensure that Africans, it is not, when Africans migrate, migration is a norm. I want Africans to invest, to do this and that overseas in a way that it will benefit Africans. I do not want Africans to be seen as people who must leave the continent and go in the UK, in the US, and live there. When Africans come back to Africa, it is not such a bad thing. I don't know why we're having this conversation from a perspective of a European country. I'm in Africa, I'm a Rwandan, I want Africans to be here. If they have to leave, then that's failure of our country to address their needs here on the continent.
We're going to wind up now, Gatete. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, and I want to get your final comments. And Louis, I'll start off with you with a final comment on this, because according to the UNHCR, you know, this whole asylum seekers and refugee crisis is getting out of hand, because as of 2021, over 84 million people around the world have been forced to flee their homes. What are your suggestions for dealing with the refugee crisis? Very briefly.
Those people who crossed into the UK have every right to hear their refugee and asylum cases heard in the UK. And if they have credible reasons to seek asylum, it should be granted. This is something the UK should be offering, the United States should be offering. We should not simply be pushing this on to other countries, paying real money, yes, and also having these countries curry favor. The UK is going to turn a blind eye to Rwanda's human rights record in the future because of this deal. This is a bad deal for the people who are seeking asylum, and ultimately it's a bad deal for both the UK and Rwanda because it's really going to sully their reputations.
Acheng, your view?
I think we need to look very critically at what happened during the global war against terror and how Africans were smuggled through some of these countries and disappeared and ended up in Guantanamo and other places of detention. I think that the UK is basically pushing people here because then it can shirk its responsibilities. There's no clarity about what rights these people will have when they get here. And I think that should have been something that should have been clear right from the start. There is no information about, you know, what happens if they need to apply. Those very clear procedures and very clear rights protections that are available in the UK are not available in some of our countries. And that is why they feel that they can, you know, they don't have to care about what happens once they've moved their people, their burden to the continent, because then the people will be subject to the laws of those countries that they move them to. And that is unacceptable. And it is xenophobic, and I would add that it is racist.
All right, we're going to leave this discussion there for the moment. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but it's been an interesting discussion. But that's all we have time for this week on the program. A big thank you to my guests for their insights. Acheng Akena, Executive Director, International Refugee Rights Initiative; Louis Mudge, the Central Africa Director at Human Rights Watch; and Gatete Nyiringabo Ruhumiliza, a human rights lawyer and independent political analyst. Remember, we'd love to hear your feedback through our social media handles on Facebook and Twitter, and you can also catch the show on our YouTube playlist. To keep the conversation going, and tune in again next week for more Talk Africa. From me, Beatrice Marshall, and the team here in Nairobi, it's goodbye.